So this is a good like close group here. All right, so we're gonna go through. Could we move this chair because I feel awkward with like the chair back facing. So we're gonna go through introductions and then a brief mindfulness meditation followed by the guided meditation followed by discussion of what our experiences were, and then we'll go into another brief guided meditation and finish off from there with our positive affirmations. Obviously, as we've done before, as you've all had the experience of doing before. So, since you don't all know each other yet, well, I mean, now you'd probably do. But yeah, let's go through introductions. And when we do this, I'd like to hear, since you were all here before, what were some of your experiences following the meetups that are worth noting now? Because you've all been at previous meetups where I haven't actually delved into what your experience was after that. So anything that's worth sharing, anything that came up that you see might be in any way associated with it. Because when you start tracing things back, when you start like going over, well, how did, was there anything that was related to those intentions that I set there? Then you start to become more aware of what you're actually creating for yourself, because ultimately everything can be traced back to our own internal worlds, to the thoughts and feelings that we've given our energy to. So it's only if we pay attention that we'll notice that. So this is an opportunity to go through, see, were there any things related to the last meetup or meetups that you were at where you saw your experiences in some way shift, or something happened that was in some way related to some of the intentions that you set. So if you could introduce yourself, tell something a little bit about yourself, and also share anything that you think might in any way be related to some intentions that you set at a previous meetup, how it might have impacted your life in some way. So yeah.
Okay, I'll go first.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Rachel. I'm currently getting a master's degree at Fordham and working a few part-time jobs. I think after the meetup and some other sessions I have with Jonathan, I have greater appreciation for myself, and has led to a lot of self-love and just more presence and content feelings. It's been really great.
I'm Tara, and I work in property management downtown. There's a lot of stress there, but since coming here, I think I emailed Jonathan right after, it was 2 weeks ago, and one of the things was the finance thing, and I just was picturing, I was like, God, I feel so much better if my account hit this certain number. And then I did, for the first time in years, I did my own taxes through TurboTax, and I got back 2.5, almost 3 times what I normally get back. I don't know what I did, but it went right to that number. Once I get the refund back, it went right to that number. But other than that,
meaning the number that you intended, you didn't say that now.
That I pictured, yes. The number that I pictured when I was sitting on his couch 4 hours earlier. And then also when I got the refund back, I was like, oh my gosh. My sister's like, you're gonna get audited. I was like, I don't know. I think everything was honest. I don't know. So, but yeah, I keep coming back because I have a fear of, I need to start setting my GPS and setting more things. I don't know why. I'm a big procrastinator. So obviously there's something in here blocking me. So that's why I keep coming. So I'm looking forward to more changes that will manifest themselves by coming here.
My name is Carol. Hi, everybody. So last meetup I came to was a while ago, maybe 2 months ago. Since then, a lot's changed in my life. So, but for the better. So.
Well, there were a bunch of exciting things.
A lot of exciting things.
That's what we intended at that last meetup that you were at.
Yes, we did. We attended the last meetup. We were talking a lot about excitement. Mm-hmm. Yes, the first one. Mm-hmm. So a lot of exciting things have happened in positive ways. I moved last Sunday, and things went smoothly like I had intended. And I'm getting to know the new roommates I live with, and it's been going more positively. So that's very exciting. And it's just instead of it being, let's say, more of a fear-based experience, I've been really affirming that it'll be more of a smooth, positive, exciting experience, and that's really what it's been. So I'm excited to today, kind of reinforce it.
Great. Hi, my name is Steve. The only thing I can really relate to, tell you, is that the first two experiences I had with Jonathan were really powerful experiences. The first time I came away feeling such a high vibrational level after that first group thing we had. It lasted for like 2 or 3 days, and it was amazing. And I had never been able to get back to that point again, so I'd love to try that. And the second time I did a guided meditation with him, I had this very clear vision of a man with a hammer pounding on an anvil, along with the sound of the anvil. And I have no idea what it means. It's a very strong image. It still stays with me, and I have no idea what it means. And basically, I keep coming back because I feel stuck. I just feel stuck in my life. I'm also a procrastinator, and I just feel stuck. And I need to be able to somehow do something to move forward. I'm just not moving forward, so that's why I'm here.
Very good. So now, considering some of the things you guys said, I feel inclined to respond to that before I go to it. So there is a very interesting thing that I'm going to want to do, but I don't think I'm going to do that today because I want to stick with our theme of creating a feeling for today. But there's something that I'm going to be doing in a future meetup where we're going to sort of go to whatever lesson is most appropriate for you at that moment. That we'll create a whole guided meditation and then lead you to going right to whatever lesson is most relevant to you at that moment. And I was actually, like, as I was thinking of how I would do that meditation, and I sort of went through it as I was meditating, then I suddenly had a couple of experiences right after the meditation, and then suddenly the message popped into my head that the things that I perceived as problems weren't really there. like the very things that I thought were problems I thought I was going to have to go fix, there wasn't anything to fix. And I realized that the message for me, the lesson that was most relevant to me, this was like a day ago, 2 days ago, was that any problems that I perceive, any obstacles that I perceive in my path are only illusions. They're not even there. I'm thinking they're there, and I think there's something I'm going to have to like put effort into fixing, but there's actually nothing there to fix.
Well, there are also opportunities. Problems and opportunity, actually. So.
Well, that's true. But for that particular moment, the lesson for me wasn't necessarily that there are opportunities, but that I don't need to distract myself with the problems because there aren't any. They're not even there. like it was strange things. Like I had a situation with a battery that wasn't charging properly, and I had just gotten it. It was a rechargeable battery, and then I called the company because it was saying it was like not working or whatever. There's dead battery, damaged battery, and then they were like, just wipe it with a soft cloth or a pencil eraser and see if it works. And I used a pencil eraser, and suddenly it was charging fine. I was envisioning having to like send it back and like get a new one, and then right after the meditation, I had like seen before that the radiator in the bathroom, like the door was hitting it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to go like get them to like push it in further, like somehow fix this so this doesn't hit. And then right after the meditation, I went to go open the door, and I'm like, why is it not hitting? How is this possible? It can't move. Like what just happened? It's like it physically moved like half an inch. It can't move half an inch. It's like reality morphed. I don't know, my bathroom changed size or something. Or the door or something. I don't know what happened there. But anyway, so the point is that these things, I thought I was going to have to put effort into fixing. I thought I was going to have to call people. I was going to have to like do work, send things back. It was going to take up my time. I don't need to spend my time on problems. There aren't any problems. They're not even there. They just disappear. So anyway, so that was obvious. That meditation obviously works. So I'll do that at some point soon for you guys. But anyway, so I was thinking of that because you guys are talking about the problems, and there aren't any problems. You're talking about being procrastinators. You're not procrastinators. You're people who are becoming growth-oriented and like are increasingly growth-oriented and growth-committed people. You're not procrastinators. As long as you identify with being procrastinators, then you won't experience the growth-orientedness and the growth around you. You'll see where you're procrastinating instead of seeing where you're going forward, and also you have like in all the places where you were saying like that you're stuck. You're not stuck. You're actually moving forward. That's the point. Like that's what's happening here is that there is movement forward. It might not be as fast as you imagine that you want it to be yet, but it is. You're moving, and if you recognize that you're moving, you'll move faster. If you still think of yourself as stuck, which is an old belief, it's an old identification, then you'll bring yourself back to that place, which will not be where you actually want to go. So rather than identifying with where you were, which is what some of the stuff is that I heard here, you're not there anymore. Things are actually already changed. The problems aren't even there as you imagine them to be. They used to be, but they're not right now. So there's no reason to keep looking at them as though they're there, because there's nothing to fix anymore. They're not there anymore. So you're already moving forward. That's what you're going to be identifying with. You're already, growing and increasingly getting clear about some direction that you want for your lives, or you wouldn't be coming here with such determination. And ultimately, it's not from the fear that you need to come here. It's not from the feeling of being stuck that you need to come here. When we act from a certain emotional place, it's the lesson that we've been talking about. When we act from a certain emotional place, we actually create a reaffirmation of that emotional place. So if you come here from a place of feeling stuck and feeling like you need to get unstuck, you're going to keep feeling more stuck, and you're going to keep being inclined to come here to try to get unstuck. And it's just going to be this sort of perpetual thing where you're not actually seeing yourself moving forward, you're seeing yourself stuck. And you're going to see yourself, if you're afraid of what might happen if you don't unstick, then you're going to keep having reasons to be afraid of that. And again, coming here is going to be this attempt to put a Band-Aid on a wound that you're not healing, instead of actually healing the wound, which is by recognizing that you're not stuck, there is no fear to be had, that you can actually trust that you are moving forward, and that's sort of the intention that you could be going forward with. So be aware of the new reality. You don't need to work with the old reality. I don't need to send the battery back. I don't need to get someone to fix the radiator. If I were to act as though the old reality was still true, I'd be putting all this extra effort in, and there would be no reason for it. Their problems aren't there anymore. So keep that in mind.
Can I add something?
Yeah,
of
course.
What's interesting is that what I find also just an addition is that really there's energy that's being put forth no matter what. We're all expending energy. We're expending energy into the belief of procrastination. We're expending energy into the belief that you're going to end up mailing the battery back and fixing the door. So there's already energy that we're experiencing. The question is whether we're going to take ourselves and shift. Literally, it could be a quarter of an inch to the left, and all of a sudden actually bypass all those obstacles and use the energy that we're already using, but use it for positive. Use it where we're going to actually create the most unbelievable realities for ourselves, not because we're expending energy that we weren't expending, but because we're spending energy in a direction that all it takes is a little shift.
I can share something. It's very funny that you say that. I live with my father. I take care of my father. He's 87, and I live with him, and I take care of him. And every time I bring the mail home, he gets this junk mail, and he starts going off on the rails about the fact that they spend so much money, politicians spend so much money to send him junk mail, and all these organizations want his money. And I'm like, Dad, why are you expecting so much energy worrying about it? That's what he does. He expends all of his energy to complain about it. I'm saying, you don't need to spend all your energy complaining about it. Just throw the stuff away if you don't want to give them money. That's all you have to do. So it's just it's a very interesting dichotomy. So.
And you see how interesting that is, that obviously once we're focusing on that reality, we're actually creating a problem, we're making it more of a problem than it actually is. Because like you said, you could just throw the mail away, it could take 2 seconds out of his day.
And go do something else.
And he can go do something else. But he's using all of this emotional, mental energy to focus on this beyond the mail, and then he's actually letting the politicians determine his life experience for him, which is kind of absurd. I mean, obviously, yet we do that all the time in different ways in our lives, where we let other people in the world around us choose our experiences for us as we react to them, rather than getting from them what they really mean for us, which is that they're giving us an opportunity to redirect our attention somewhere else, to choose what we want in our experience instead of this, because obviously this is the result of something else we've focused our attention on. That we would get frustrated with this means we're frustrated with things in ourselves. We don't get that frustrated about mail unless there's something else that's already bothering us. So if we recognize, all right, so how does this make me feel? How have I been making myself feel this way? What have I been giving too much energy to in other ways in my life, and that I could make changes, rather than just deciding that this is another reason to be upset, or this is another reason to be frustrated or fearful or whatever it is, that we can actually use everything as an opportunity, like you said, an opportunity for growth, for redirection, for figuring out what do we want to welcome into our experience. Because really, when we focus on things, we actually are welcoming them into our experience. If you think about it, once you're focused on something that's bothering you, you're actually saying, yeah, I'd love to have this thing bother me. Let me think more about this thing that bothers me. I really want things to bother me. That's why else would I give so much time and energy to focusing on the thing that's bothering me so I could get all riled up about it. You know, it's like we want that in our experience. And then obviously we get more things that support that feeling because we're already there.
Well, because that, you know what, to a lot of people that helps define who they are.
Well, it's because they're still defining who they are based on what they're not liking instead of defining who they are based on what they are liking. And that's the major shift. When we start defining ourselves based on what we like, think about how life shifts. We start noticing all the things that we like about our lives, then more things come in, and then we say, oh, I really like that, and then another thing comes in, and things change increasingly for the better, and then we see more things as I like that, and I like that, and I like that, instead of I don't like this, and I don't like that, and this is who I am. I'm the person who doesn't like these things. I'm the person who procrastinates, person where I'm not moving forward, I'm stuck. Like, what an identification. Like, you know, as opposed to I'm someone who is consistently growing and changing for the better. I'm evolving. I'm seeing the world getting better all around me. It's like my life is increasingly becoming things that I love. It's filling with things that I love. And I love this about it. I love that about it. And this small thing that happened today, that was amazing. And then we become people who are defined based on what we love and what we like in our lives and what's good about our lives and what we like about where we're going, instead of defining ourselves based on what we haven't liked about where we were, which just holds us back there like we're anchored to it.
There's just so much fear in that because we end up thinking that there's so much more control in noticing what we don't like because then we can fix it.
And yet,
and like, who doesn't want to be a fixer? You know?
And yet, we can't really fix it that way. It's an illusion.
Right.
Because by focusing on it, we're actually saying, stay here. I want to be frustrated with you. You have to stay here so I can be frustrated with you. If there's something, if it's fixed, I won't have anything to be frustrated about. Who will I be?
That's very scary. That's very scary.
It's true. It's true.
Who will I be? What
Yes.
you know? The future is unknown.
Yes.
And you know, a lot of people don't know or don't have in their consciousness the fact that they can actually create their own futures and whatever way they want, and it's a very scary thing not to see nothing in the future.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Which is why we stick with what we know. So we stay with what's bad because it seems better to stay in what's bad and identify with that than to step into the unknown of what could be good, but we don't know what's going to happen, and we're not familiar with it, and we don't relate to that. We don't know what our role is in relation to that yet, and we don't know who we would be there. So if we just keep defining ourselves based on what we have been, where things weren't good, then at least we can know what our reality is. Even though it's bad, at least we know what it is. It's familiar, it's comfortable in that sense, no matter how uncomfortable it is. It's comfortable because it's familiar, and so we can just stay there. And that's what holds a lot of people back, obviously. It's a big part of it, to be able to just be inclined to stay in the familiar rather than stepping into the unknown and taking that leap. Because you're right, because if we don't feel like we're creating our realities, we're not confident that we're doing that, then we are leaping completely into the unknown. As far as we're concerned, it could be worse. And we're not going for worse. Better to stay in the terrible now than go into a potential worse future. But it doesn't have to be worse. It's up to us. It's because we are creating our reality. And ultimately, the worst thing is actually staying still. So in a lot of ways, we're choosing the worst thing when we stay still, when we continue to identify with where we've been. So ultimately, interestingly, all of this is related to what we're going to be doing, because our minds are all anticipating where we're going, what the feeling is going to be. You guys just don't realize it yet, but that is the way things work. Even the things you talked about, like that didn't happen when I asked people introductions. When I've asked people, to introduce themselves in the past, I didn't have all people who were here before, and I didn't have an experience where people were, talking about things I identified with in the past and what's been changing as recently as much. And where there was the opportunity to have this discussion, which you'll see is perfectly related to what we're going to be creating in our meditation. So you'll see how you're sort of it's like we are where we're supposed to be in life, that we're already anticipating what's to come, and you're already aware of what the sort of solution is or what you're in the process of creating. I'm just tapping into what you're already in the process of creating, and that's what we're going to do right now. So let's go into, first we're going to do about 3 to 5 minutes of mindfulness meditation, where we're just going to be present to our breathing and just pay attention to the air as it flows past your nostrils, or the rise and fall of your chest as you breathe. And whenever you notice your mind wander, then just acknowledge where it wanders to. Notice the sounds, the thoughts, the feelings, and just acknowledge them and bring your attention back to your breathing. Let's just do this for 3 to 5 minutes. still in this calmer place, you can keep your eyes closed. Imagine how you will feel when you're going to bed at night tonight. Getting into bed, reflecting on the day. And in the ideal, how would you be feeling? Perhaps you're feeling like this was a beautiful day in every way. Like you're a little clearer about yourself, the direction your life is going, where you want it to be going, what to do to get there. Feeling more motivated, more purposeful. Feeling content, fulfilled. Like today was a good day. Got a lot out of today. I was in all the right places at all the right times. Made good decisions today. As you're getting into bed tonight, getting deep, restful sleep. And waking up tomorrow feeling refreshed and rejuvenated, ready to start your day. Now go back to a time when you felt successful. Could go back. Could be today, could be yesterday, last week, last month, last year. Could be years ago. Could be your childhood or further. Just go back to a time when you felt successful. Notice what that feels like in your body, that feeling of being successful. This sort of high energy presence, energy perhaps located more in the chest area, sort of flowing and expansive. Feels like you've accomplished something of value to you, that you are valuable. That you've set a goal and you've reached it, knowing that that was a goal that you set out to achieve, and you did it. important, like you did something that matters to you. Maybe it also matters to others. Feel like you've done something that you care about, that you've achieved something that you care about. Perhaps you also feel cared about. By yourself and by others, as you're committed to achieving something that mattered to you, that was valuable to you. And you committed to it and you made it happen. Living in that triumphant feeling of being successful. Just be with that feeling for a few moments. Just pay attention to what that feels like. Now let's project this feeling forward to different areas of our lives in the present and near future. Imagine what it would feel like to be successful in regard to your body and your body image and your health in the coming days and weeks and months. Feeling like you've set goals and you've achieved them in regard to your body and your health. Now imagine what it would feel like to be successful, to feel successful in your living situation, in your environment, in your home, in the coming days and weeks and months. You've decided that you want to reach some point imagine what it would feel like, what it would be like to feel successful in your career, coming days and weeks and months. To feel like you're doing something that's purposeful, that you've achieved some purpose that you set out to achieve. In your career. Now imagine what it would feel like to feel successful in your financial situation in the coming days and weeks and months. To have set clear goals and reached them in your financial situation. Now imagine what it would be like to feel successful in your family in the coming days and weeks and months. What would it mean to be successful for you in regard to your family? Now imagine what it would be like to feel successful in your community, in your group of friends or group that you belong to. What would it mean to be successful in the area of community in the coming days and weeks and months. Now imagine what it would be like to feel successful in your friendships, your close connections with other people in the coming days and weeks and months. Now imagine what it would be like to feel successful in your relationship situation, in that area of your life, the connection to a special other person. In the coming days and weeks and months. What would it mean for you to be successful in the area of relationships? Imagine what it would be like to feel successful in every area of your life. To feel like you've set clear goals in every area and that you've reached them. That you see you're on your way toward them and you see that you are at them. feeling that triumphant feeling of having done something that's important and valuable to you, that you care about, that you accomplished this. You have that feeling of, yes, I did this, I did it. And imagine small successes leading to bigger successes, compiling on themselves. As your feeling of being successful grows and life supports that feeling. Whenever you're ready, you can return to this room. You can open your eyes, totally present, bringing that successful feeling with you and into your life. Whenever anyone is ready, I would love to hear about your experiences, as we were just, obviously, as we've talked about before, creating a feeling, because the feeling always precedes the experience to be supported by our life experiences. We don't go into the world and experience things. We already experience things, and then we go into the world, and then it determines how we respond or react to things and turn them into one thing or another, where obviously even then our responses actually determine what the next events are, just as if we were feeling happy and walk down the street, find ourselves smiling at people and people smile back, and that obviously changes our experience, as opposed to feeling like we're in a bad place and walking down the street and looking at the ground and we're not getting those smiles back, and our actual experience changes as it responds to our responses to it. And ultimately we bring that feeling quality to our experiences, and that feeling quality shapes those experiences. And that is why obviously everyone could be experiencing different things, despite the fact that some very similar things are happening for many different viewers, because we're all bringing our own emotional quality of the experience to it, and then we all notice different aspects of the experience so that it supports what we were already feeling going into it. And then we use it in a way that it actually brings about more of that feeling for us. So I'd love to hear what did you go back to that you felt was a time that you felt successful, or what were some things that came up as you were trying to imagine feeling successful in different areas of your life? Anything that anyone wants to share, or just about the meditation experience itself? Anything that stands out to you, anything that you experienced. Ultimately everything that, as we've talked about before, anything that any one of us is experiencing that we talk about is going to be what other people are experiencing. It's only when we try to force certain things into the picture that we find things that are not related to what the people around us are experiencing, because we naturally are guided toward bringing up things that other people are going through around us. Topics of conversation become the very topics that other people are thinking of. lessons that we're learning are the very lessons other people are learning, because if we are in the same space, then it means we're on the same road, which means we're headed a similar direction. You cannot meet cars that are not on your road. You can only meet cars that are on your road. And therefore, we must have some destination in common at this time. We are going a similar direction at this time, and that's why we're all here. That's why our conversation earlier was something that we could all relate to. And ultimately, that's why everything that we talk about now will be that way as well. And ultimately, I want you to notice that our conversation earlier is very much related to us getting to a place where we could feel successful. A big part of that is recognizing that if we identify with where we've been, then we never really feel successful. We can't move forward if we're identified with where we failed in some way. If we identify with the fact that we procrastinate or that we're stuck, success comes from actually identifying with what it's going to feel like when we are successful, with that motivating feeling of already being at our goals. Notice, by the way, how fluid our identity is, because it's all about what you choose to identify with in any moment, and that actually determines what your next moments of experience will be. But it's almost as though you can actually shift who you are at this moment and your entire experience of your life, just as we perhaps did when we came in here, and then versus now. That perhaps your experience is different right now than it was before the meditation. Notice how much can change when nothing outside you changes yet. And then as you change, then the world outside you changes, because as you change your responses to it. If you are someone who is growing, then you obviously take different actions than if you are someone who is procrastinating. You are already a different person, inclined to take different actions as you choose to be a different person, as you choose to identify with the goals that you've set for yourself, as you step into those destinations, as you imagine what it already is to be there. And suddenly there's this fuel in the car driving you forward, guiding you toward actions that you otherwise wouldn't take if you were a different person. But you are now the person who is in line with your destinations, inclined to take actions that will get you there. So anything that's on anyone's mind, anything that anyone wants to share.
I'll share. When you usually do these meditations, you bring up the feelings. So some of the feelings I can't envision or I can't put myself in, but the success one is easy because, like I mentioned to you once before, that I do so much for myself in my job because of other people. So that's success. So I have reaped the benefits of that. But so to picture that, and then to project it into the other aspects of my life, like just coming out of that, like, I feel pumped. I feel good. That was probably the best one I've had here since. Because I could really, truly identify with that feeling. And then, and I was thinking about all the stuff, how you were saying about procrastination, how we're not really procrastinators and all that. And really, and then when I got to the certain aspect of my life, which I'm kind of open about, is the relationship aspect, I immediately was like, no, let's go back to the finance, or let's go back to my friends. And I could feel it. So I'm like, no, come on. You can do it, and then I started really picturing it, and I was like, okay, and I could see how that fear is there, but then by the time you're like, all right, come back to the room, I was like, okay, so yeah, it was a good one for me.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
When you got to the success with career, it's funny because it's nice to feel like you're so happy. When at one point your job was a success for you, but when you're exhausted physically from working nights, and you don't want to think of the option of looking again, and you don't want to, and you're the fear of what else is out there, and what else would bring success, and there's so many things wrapped up in not changing a career, but changing the job, and being willing to relook at that area again, and not accept what the society says, which is when you work days you make less, which I don't want either, So it's interesting to now really be prepared to look at my career and say that I want more. I don't know. It's really crazy. But now I'm ready to look at it.
It's worth noting that what you said about relationships and what you said about career, if you each listen to what the other one said, that applies. The fear of looking again, of doing this all over again, of I've done this before already, do I really want to try again?
Right.
But like knowing that like not trying is not an option either.
Right.
This is true for all of us, by the way, whatever areas you had trouble imagining success in, these are the things that come up. Otherwise we wouldn't all be here. That we've tried before, maybe we found some kind of glimpse of success in those areas before, and then it didn't work out, and that feeling left, and then that fear of trying again. What if it doesn't work out again? I have to put all the effort in again. So much that seems to be required. Now notice the solution to that, stepping into what it would feel like if we were actually successful there. That's motivating, to look at the fear of all the effort we're going to have to put in again. What if it doesn't work out? That's so demotivating. And then we're very unlikely to reach our goal because we're going to be inclined to make decisions that lead us right back to the feeling that we have to do this all over again, because we're acting from that place. We're less likely to be as clear about something that would actually get us the feeling that we want if we're acting from the place of the feeling that we don't want and just throwing ourselves into another situation blindly as we're trying to run away from something behind us and looking behind us instead of looking forward. But if we look forward and we say, what would it be like to be successful there? What if this time it actually lasts? What if it's better than it ever was before and it lasts? What would that be like? And that's motivating. That gets us going, and then we're looking forward in the direction we want to go, and we make different decisions. Instead of making the same kinds of decisions we made before and repeating the same scenarios, we make different decisions and create new scenarios that are actually what we want as we pay more attention, we're more aware as we're going.
And it's funny because like I'm thinking like, oh, who has the energy for it, you know? But I'm thinking like, right now, at the same time I'm saying that, I'm saying I'm so exhausted, so it's like, who has the energy not to, you know? Like, it's funny.
That's interesting. You can see that there is a point as we're progressing where we find ourselves feeling like it's too difficult to go backward. It's also pretty difficult to go forward. And it makes it very difficult to decide what you're going to do. But at that point, it seems like, well, it's not really an option to go backward. If it's difficult to go backward, I might as well make the effort to go forward.
Feeling stuck. You can't go backwards, but you can't go forward. So feeling stuck. I've had successes and failures in careers. I've had successes and failures in friendships. I've had successes and failures in relationships. You know, and you know, looking from my perspective, looking backwards, I try to tell myself that the success isn't the goal. The success is the journey. You know. But as I told you, I mean, I consider myself pretty successful in what I'm doing as far as my job, my career. It's not even a career. I don't even have a career anymore. Right now, I'm just working. My career is like, you know, it was when I was working 30 years. That was my career. Now it's not my career anymore. Very successful right now in just taking care of my father, making sure he's happy. Very successful in doing that. And again, it's not a goal because eventually he's going to pass away, you know, but it's the journey. So my main focus is relationships, success in relationships, where I feel really, really stuck and unable to make any sort of meaningful connection with anybody in a relationship. So I got stuck on that. We started talking about relationships and stuff.
I want to, two things I want to say about that and something you said earlier which ties in. You had said earlier, before we meditated, you said that you achieved this high energy place, this high vibration place after the first one. You haven't been able to get to that again. You want to get back to that. But again, it's the journey. You just answered your own question about that. It shouldn't be the goal. Whenever we make, there's a certain sort of balance, sort of this balancing act, because we are creating a feeling, and that is a goal, but it's also the journey toward the goal. If you're not in the feeling on the way there, you're not going to be in that feeling when you get there. And so, in a sense, it's not making it into something that's so difficult to achieve. Just be there. If you are there, then you will be there. And then external things happen that support you in being there, and then you have more of a reason to be there. But if you aren't already there, you will never get there. And so this sense of I'm trying to get back to that separates you from that. And it's like when you're meditating, these like peak experiences of meditation, you don't get to them when you're thinking, I really want to experience this peak experience of meditation. I'm going to keep working on it. I'm going to keep trying. I haven't been there recently. I was there once, and I'm always trying to get back to that again. Experiences that people have with like drugs and everything. It's like where they're always trying to get back to that feeling with relationships, with a career, anything that you experience some high, and then you get caught up in the feeling that you're not there, working toward there again. But you're never going to be there if you're not there working toward there again, if that's your identity. So ultimately, the important thing is to remember what that feels like, be in that feeling, and then live, rather than striving toward that feeling in your living and hoping that one day you get back, where you will always be in the journey toward there and never be there. So ultimately, it is all about the journey. The important thing is to recognize that at every point in the journey, we're already at our destination. And if we're not, we're never reaching our destination. Because the destination is an internal experience. It's not an external reality. And if we're in that internal experience, then every moment of the journey, we will be where we want to be already. And the external actually supports us in being there. So the external becomes something that looks more like what we would have imagined our destination to be externally, but only because we were already at the ultimate destination, which is always an internal one. We're never really wanting a relationship or a career of some sort or certain relationships with people or friendships or anything. What we're really wanting is the feeling that we imagine we're going to get from it. It's not about changing our living situation or making more money or, having someone we can really connect with. It's what would that feel like? That would be amazing. It's all the things we associate with that. But we will never get to all those things that we associate with that if we're not there in our looking for it. Because then we're looking and we're not in it. And we'll always be looking and never be in it. And so the important thing is actually to identify what our actual destination is. What is our actual goal? What is the peak of the mountain that we're headed toward? Rather than getting caught up in the idea that some base camp is the end goal. That if we reach this place by the end of today, then we'll have reached our goal, and this is where we absolutely have to go. It doesn't matter whether we actually go that way. Maybe it would be better in terms of getting to the peak of the mountain if we go a different direction up the mountain. But if we're so intent upon reaching that ledge that we've decided is our base camp, then we lose sight of our goal, and we can make it really difficult for ourselves. We're sliding down the slope, it's really difficult going. It clearly isn't the best way up, but we determine this is the way we're going to go because this is our base camp, as though it's our ultimate destination, when ultimately if we just went right instead of left here, there was this other place we could have set up base camp, we would have made progress several times faster and toward our actual goal, which is the peak. So the important thing whenever we're striving toward anything, when we're thinking in terms of success, the most important thing is actually knowing what our goal is. You can't be successful and feel like you've reached the goal that meant something to you if you didn't ever set a clear goal that is actually the one you want to reach. If you set goals that are not the ones you want to reach, that are physical things that you think are going to get you to your goal, then you're micromanaging. That's like driving around. You have a GPS in the car. It's giving you directions. You're like, well, I think I know a better way. You've got this infallible GPS inside you, and you're driving a different direction than the directions are guiding you because you think you know a better way. Now, ultimately, if the GPS is actually infallible, that's probably not the best approach. If it were a fallible GPS, then it's another story. But our internal GPS is infallible. So if it feels wrong, it's the wrong direction. If it feels like where we want to go, then it's the right direction. If it feels like it is already where we want to go, if we're already in that feeling, then you're going the right direction. Then you'll take the right way up the mountain that will get you to the peak, which is what matters. rather than striving to get to a certain ledge, which might take forever and will never actually be. You'll reach the ledge and you'll be like, what was I doing? Wasting so much time getting here. I want to get to the peak. I realized that other way would have been much faster. But if we were listening all along the way, if we were actually clear about what our goal was, then we would take different directions up the mountain. If we were clear, well, the peak is what matters. So I don't need to go to this ledge because the peak is what matters. Right now, I'm going to just see however I can move up today. It doesn't have to be there that I get, because maybe a different direction is better. So it might not be a relationship at this time with this person that will get you to your goal. It might not be a certain career at this time that will get you to that goal. Or it's ultimately when you're clear about what you want to feel, then you will get to your goal. I just had some interesting experiences with this recently with friends and clients. I had a friend who I spoke with a couple of months ago, and then I had a few pivotal conversations with her, and we had reflected on like previous relationship experiences that she'd had and that she'd just been coming out of, and what she learned from it about what she really wants in terms of how she wants to treat herself and what she wants in a relationship, what she wants in life, and where she wants to be living. And she was focusing on the idea that she had to be living in a certain place. She was it was like New York. And at the same time, she felt totally, if it was so clear it wasn't New York, it was like Israel. It was clearly not supposed to be Israel. It's like all these like, I should do this, I should do that. And I was like, you don't sound like you want to go to any of these places. Like, first, decide how you want to feel where you're living, and then look. Separate from the idea that it has to be a certain place. Just decide how you want to feel when you're there. And there was also what she wanted to do in terms of her career. She was all like confused about everything. And really like telling herself that certain things should happen and they would lead to other things. It was like, I should move to Israel and that's where I'll meet my soulmate. And it was so forced. And then, so I pointed this out, and I told her, just imagine what you want to feel. Let go of the rest. You don't need to figure out any of the rest. Just step into what you want to feel like. What would it feel like to be living in your ideal situation? What would some aspects of where you live be that would get you to that feeling? Be more nature for her. There would be more nature. There would be, whatever, all these different, like start to like come up with some details that still aren't specific locations, but just details, things that would support her in feeling what she really wants to feel. And then she had ended up calling me, and she like came up with this like whole new thing about career that was totally unrelated to anything she'd ever said before. And I was like, I don't know, this doesn't feel right at all. She sounded really excited, and I was like, she was like, but this is the practical approach, and it's, if I do this, then I'll have a skill that I have under my belt. And I'm like, but this doesn't sound resonant with anything you've said before. And so that was the end of that conversation. And then I didn't hear from her in about a month. And then I saw that she was engaged, but I didn't even know she met anyone. And so then she ended up calling me a few days later when she finally got a chance. And she emailed me rather first. She emailed me and she said, I couldn't have gotten here without you. It was because of our conversation that we had about a month ago that I finally realized that love is kindness, and if it isn't kindness, it isn't love. And I started to treat myself with kindness. I realized I really wanted to be treating myself the way that I wanted to be treated, and I just started allowing myself to have the things that I wanted, and to treat myself the way I would want to be treated, essentially, she was saying. And she said, and so I met this guy, and it came out of that, and so thank you. And so then when I ended up actually getting to speak with her, more dots were connected, because I still was like, there's some things to be filled in here. And so when I actually spoke with her, then I realized that what happened was, in the bigger picture, it turned out, so she's getting married to this guy, and she's moving to California where he lives. And so it's like all these things all over the place. And so then when I actually when I was listening to everything that was happening, I was like, this makes so much sense. You were really excited. So because what happened was, she was excited about this career that made no sense for her. And then in that conversation, this is where the dots all started connecting, because what I really know is what she's going to be doing for her career. She finally started being like, yeah, I feel like I could be doing this. And she was like, a lot of people have been telling me this recently. I'm like, yes, exactly. and so then, which is totally unrelated to this thing that she was saying, that she, like, it was more practical and skills and whatever. So I realized what happened was she pursued this career path that probably isn't the one she's going to pursue, looking for schools where she would learn this. And because she was looking at schools, she was starting to consider where was she going to look at schools. And then she was thinking, obviously, because she'd already imagined how she wants to feel where she's living, she was thinking she wanted to be in nature and everything. And then her brother suggested, why not California? It's really beautiful there. And then she decided to look into a school there. And then at that very same time, a whole bunch of guys started messaging her on this dating site who are from California. And then she got a message from this one particular guy, and then she started speaking with him. She was speaking with him on the phone for 3 weeks, and then she realized that this was the one. And she went there, she met him, and on the second date that they were meeting in person, he proposed. But apparently, like, everything was so clear for both of them, and her immediate family is super supportive. They weren't supportive of any of her other relationships because she was never resonant with them. She was never really in them fully. There was always a part of her that was saying, no, this is wrong, and her family reflected that back. And now her immediate family is like, we're so happy for you. Her mother actually encouraged her to go visit the guy in California. It was like, because it just felt right. And all this stuff happened, and like turned on a dime, and she's getting married in like a week. And it was like, this was like they've known each other for like, I don't know, 2 months. So this all happened because she pursued a career that I knew was wrong for her, but it started with, this is the key, it started with the fact that she identified her peak, because that's what we were talking about. It was, what do you want to feel in a relationship? What do you want to feel where you live? What do you want to feel in terms of the community there? These were the things that we were talking about. And then it led her onto this whole crazy path with this career thing I was so confused about. But she was excited about it, not because of the career, although she thought she was. It was actually because that career was going to get her to look at schools in California, which was going to get her to consider moving to California, which was going to get her to consider dating someone in California, which was going to get her meeting this guy, where now she's moving to California, and the environment is more what she wants, the guy is someone she wants, and the community there is something she wants. Like, all the things that she wanted, because she created the feeling, everything just fell into place across the country. But it all started with identifying her peak, and everything just fell into place, and she just wasn't attached to it. Had to be, like, when she let go of the idea that it had to be Israel, it had to be New York, it had to be this, that, then suddenly, like, things fell together in ways that we could never have planned out. This is like craziness. And I don't think she's going to pursue that career path. But that's the only reason she was looking at California, which led her to consider that guy, which led her to everything else. So everything will fall into place if we're clear about what we want to feel. If we're clear about the peak, the ultimate goal, then things will come together in ways that we can't plan. We can't force it. And this is where we really have to trust, because we can't force it. We can't control these things. This could never have been micromanaged by her successfully. No one comes up with these things. You can't come up with these things. When the directions from above the maze of life are being handed to us because we said, I'd love to feel what it feels like to be outside of this maze, and then suddenly we start getting all these clear directions as though we have the map from above, but we only know the next turn. And we don't know all the way to the end, but we know, well, right now it feels right to take this turn. I'm just going to take this turn to see where it leads me. It doesn't matter that it doesn't seem right from some external objective perspective, or that I can't logically explain this, because it feels right. I'm going to go with it because I know that I set my destination, and I can trust whatever directions I'm getting because I set a destination that I'm clear about. And if we're not clear, then we could ask ourselves at any moment, all right, what if I did this? How would I feel if I did this? What would I feel if I did this instead? How would I feel if I did that? Which, does either feel right? Does either feel wrong? Ultimately, there's only going to be one that feels right. Might be one that they might both feel okay. One's going to feel more right. If you always ask yourself, how would I feel after I did this? Then you will always get clear directions based on the destination you set. So obviously the first step is set your destination. How would you like to feel ultimately? And then you can ask yourself, how would I feel if I did this? Now that I've set my destination and I know that I'm going to get directions in the right place, toward the right place, how would I feel if I took this action? How would I feel if I pursued this guy? How would I feel if I pursued this career endeavor, pursued this woman, pursued this, whatever? How would I feel after that? And it might not be the one, but it's supposed to get you, it's going to get you there. Like, it's just a matter of listening to the directions. So your job is just to decide, how would I like to feel ultimately? And then ask yourself before each decision, how would I feel after I did this? And if it feels good, go with it. If it doesn't, come up with a different alternative. And you will have directions that are clearer and more direct than any that you could ever micromanage. As far as this, what was it? So that was, I feel like there were, I don't know if I covered both things I was going to say in response. One was the journey. And the other was, so connection. So far what's been said, and then I want to hear from you, because I don't hear from you yet. But what we heard so far, so as far as career and as far as relationships, it's always a reflection of us. So if we're feeling like we're having trouble imagining success in the area of relationships, then it's that we're really having trouble feeling connected to ourselves. There might be other areas where there are things that were worked out with ourselves. Maybe we feel like we are accepting our, different parts of ourselves more than in the past, or we're feeling like we are allowing parts of ourselves to exist at least, but we're not really connecting to them. And we're not really connecting to ourselves. When you connect to yourself, then you bring a relationship in that supports that feeling of connection. When you feel like you are lacking a relationship, or you're afraid of it, or there are all sorts of things associated with relationship stuff, then it has to do with your connection with you. Because you're looking for a connection with another person, or you're avoiding looking for a connection with another person. And regardless of what it is, it's about you. It's a connection with yourself. The world is just a reflection. So then you want to ask yourself, where am I not connecting with me? And what would it mean to connect with me? What would it mean to connect with my own thoughts, feelings, and instincts, with what I really think and feel and want, about what's important to me, what I love, what I care about, what, if I were treating myself with respect and kindness and compassion and any other thing that we would want to be treated, with however we'd want to be treated by another person, that we would feel like someone's there for us, that someone cares for us, that someone wants to listen to us, whatever it is, those are the things we want to do to ourselves. If we want someone who listens to us, we want to listen to ourselves. If we want someone who loves us, then we want to be more loving toward ourselves, whatever that would mean. What would we do if we loved ourselves? What would we want someone else to do? We should probably be doing that for ourselves. When we are doing these things, and I would want someone who respects me. Well, what does that mean? Well, how can I do that for me? When we actually do those things, then we're actually setting an example, which is leading us to then feel connected. And then because we're feeling connected, we bring people into our lives we feel we connect to and who feel connected to us. So, and ultimately then they're gonna be people who listen to us because we're listening to ourselves. They're gonna be people who respect us because we're respecting ourselves. People who care for us because we're caring for ourselves. People who maybe even go out of their way to do things nice for us because we do that for ourselves. Whatever it is that we would be looking for in another person. And whatever we're avoiding with ourselves is because of ways that we've treated ourselves in the past. That we'd want to look at other previous relationships and ask ourselves, how have I treated myself that way? How did I feel in that situation? What was the outcome? How have I done that to me? And if you ask yourself that, and then you ask, and then you actually acknowledge that, and you apologize for that, just as you probably would want an apology from the other person, at least acknowledgement that they hurt you, that you would ask yourself, how have I done that to me? And then you say, I see that I have done that to me, and I'm sorry. Because ultimately, obviously, you would want that acknowledgement. You'd want that apology. That's the only way you'd be able to really move forward, is if you felt that there was acknowledgement. Whenever there's any kind of hurt in any kind of relationship scenario of any sort, any kind of relationship, then ultimately we'd really want the other person to acknowledge how they treated us, that hurt us, so that we know that they know. So that we know that they're aware of what they did that we didn't like, that hurt us. Because if they don't even know, then what kind of confidence can we have that it's not going to happen again? And that's happening in our relationship with ourselves. If we don't even acknowledge what we've done, if we still think it was the other person, and that it wasn't a mirror of us. Obviously it was the other person, but it was a mirror of us. If we still think it was only the other person who treated us that way, it was only the other person who made me feel that way, I'm still upset with the other person for this, then that's because we still haven't gotten the acknowledgement and apology from the person who really did that to us. Ultimately, the person we're most upset with, which is us. And when we can actually ask ourselves, how have I done this to myself? I acknowledge, and then when we start to recognize how we've done that, then we can say, I see that by doing this, I made myself feel this way, and I'm sorry for that. I would never want to treat myself this way. You can say it in the, you're talking to yourself, so I would never want to treat you this way. I'm sorry that I treated you this way. I would love to make you feel these other ways going forward. I would love to make you feel listened to. I would love to make you feel understood. I would love to make you feel acknowledged. I would love to make you feel like you can trust me, like I can trust you, like we have that good relationship with each other. I would like that, like there's mutual respect and understanding and listening. That's how I'd like to make you feel going forward, that you're talking to yourself. And the more you have that kind of communication with yourself, the more you actually have a relationship with yourself. The more you have a relationship with yourself, where you're actually acknowledging how you treated yourself, and you're acknowledging that, and then apologizing, and then determining, setting a destination for how you'd like to make yourself feel going forward, and you actually make effort to do those things, and then obviously go through the process of, okay, I see I made a mistake, I slipped, I know I did what I said in the past I wouldn't do, but can you see I'm working on it? That we want that, that's the conversation we're having with ourselves, because obviously otherwise, if we get something from someone else, even if they apologize, but then they do it again, then we'd be like, yeah, well, I guess that apology wasn't so genuine, was it? We would do the same thing with ourselves. We see ourselves do the same thing again, where it seems like we're not treating ourselves well. We're not treating ourselves the way we really want to be treated. We're not treating ourselves with kindness, with love, as though we're worthy of our attention. We're not taking care of ourselves the way we really want to be taken care of. Then again, obviously it's going to come up, and we're going to feel like, oh, and then we're going to get it reflected back at us by someone. It's going to be like, or we're just going to remember what it felt like. With memory is going to come up from a relationship or something. Something's going to come up, because it's all our thoughts, feelings, and instincts communicating with us. And something is going to come up, and we're going to feel like, oh, I'm so upset with this person. They never change. It's obviously about us. It's not about the other person. It's the conversation we're having with ourselves. So then you respond. I hear you. I did the same thing that I've done before. But it's not that I won't change. I am working on it, and I am changing. And I slipped, and I'm sorry. And you're right. You have every reason to be upset. And I would really like to reaffirm how I'd like to make you feel, how I'd like to make you feel going forward. I would like you to feel like I'm with you, like I'm listening to you, like I'm here for you. And ultimately, everything we're talking about is obviously pivotal in having any kind of success. Because if you don't have that partnership with yourself, you're not getting where you want to go, ultimately. Because again, that partnership with yourself is involving giving some kind of purpose to yourself, and listening to the directions, and recognizing that's taken care of. That it's not your job to figure out how to get up the mountain. It's your job to decide what peak you're headed toward, what it would feel like to be where you want to go, and then to be willing to listen to the directions, however crazy they seem along the way, because you trust yourself the way you'd want someone to trust you. Because you respect yourself, because you love yourself, because you know that this could work out in this partnership with yourself. If you're too, inclined to micromanage everything going forward, then you can imagine what kind of relationship you'd have with another person. And then you either end up micromanaging or feeling micromanaged, or both, by the other person. Feeling like they don't really understand you, they're not really listening to you. There's no real direction in the relationship or in anything that happens within the relationship, or whatever it is that you're not, giving yourself. So create that relationship with you. And as far as career, it's actually preserving all parts of yourself. It's actually taking care of yourself, because ultimately career is touching upon the preserving ourselves element, allowing ourselves to exist. If we don't allow ourselves a space to exist, then we cannot have a successful career. If we're not paying attention to ourselves, we cannot get paid. And so it's more fundamentally allowing all parts of ourselves to have a space to exist, and giving them the attention that they need to exist. Imagining that you are providing the sunshine, and you've got all these beautiful flowers inside you, and without the sunshine, they're going to wither and die. And so you're providing the sunshine, and and it's now your job to just allow the things within you to flourish that want space to exist, that want the energy of existence. So there's the connection with yourself, and there's preserving all parts of yourself. And then as far as belonging, as far as community, it's accepting all parts of yourself. To allow them to belong within you, rather than judging them or cutting them out or dismissing them. You cannot feel like you belong somewhere when you're not accepting parts of yourself in trying to belong. Just as we're inclined to disconnect from parts of ourselves to try to connect with another person and then feel disconnected. And just as we're inclined to tune out parts of ourselves rather than actually giving them space to exist, tune out parts of ourselves in order to try to make a living. None of it makes any sense. But that's what we do. And it's counter to our getting to our goals. In many cases, we probably want to go the opposite direction from where we're going. Do you have anything you want to share? You don't have to.
No, so I have been working on this like partnership with myself and connecting to myself, and I kind of am able to see how it's like playing out in like relationships in my life that are like reflecting maybe some of the inner work I've been doing, which is kind of cool. But I know this is all connected, but I'm not seeing any of that progress on like the career front, and I just feel like I can't like overcome my situation. Like I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm not happy with these things. We talked about it, but it's like a means to an end. But even during this ride, I like can't get to a good place with it. And I'm like interested with, because you talked about the difference between like connecting with yourself versus like preservation, and like obviously I'm not doing a good job with one of those, and I'm doing an okay job with the other. I don't know if that's related to like my type or whatever, but these are just things that I'm thinking. Yeah. So it was hard for me to imagine like success in a career, but not with relationship.
So it's interesting. So obviously, our stress levels affect where we seek fulfillment based on our personalities. And so we can see the degrees of stress we've each been under if we look at where we're identifying, where we're holding, where our issues are. Because we're most inclined to have issues in the area of our main area of focus, which for you is one-on-one, and for all three of you is self-preservation. So for you, it's one-on-one relationships that you give too much attention to that.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It's very interesting you say that, because the only area in my life where I get an incredible amount of stress is from my ex-wife and my daughter. An amazing amount of stress. And that's where I seem to have the most trouble moving forward.
So when you see, ultimately, the main issues come up where we give too much attention. That's really the issue. Then we have other issues that come up where we don't give any attention. But we don't notice there are issues there because we're not giving them any attention. So there are actually issues that are causing other issues that you don't even realize because that's the area you're not paying any attention to. So if you think about it this way, there are the areas that you're too caught up in, and it's so consuming your attention that you start needing things to come out of it because you're putting so much into it. And that's where all your investments are, all your eggs in one basket. There's so much being put into this area of your life that you need a return. But because you're giving so much energy to it, you're micromanaging, you're not really trusting it's going to work out. You need it to work out because you're putting too much into it. And so there's too much, you're thinking about it even when it's not happening. There's all this, mental and emotional energy being put into it even when you're not physically involved with that area. And so there's too much of you being put into it, and you're actually making it more important than you, more valuable than you. You're making it more than you when you should be the highest priority. There should be nothing else that's a higher priority than you. Whenever anything becomes a higher priority than you, you start to have problems in that area that you're making a higher priority than you. Because then you're not a priority to the people in that area. Because you're making yourself not a priority as compared to them. They're the priority, and they make themselves the priority, and you're not a priority. And so ultimately
I'm sorry. Again,
go ahead.
I'm just thinking about what's going on, and definitely they are making themselves a priority to me, and you know what?
Because you've made them the priority. You've made them more of a priority than you. And when you're the highest priority, that whole dynamic shifts because suddenly you're a priority, and then other people treat you as a priority, and you change your dynamics with them, and you end up focusing on other people and other areas of your life because you're focusing on you and whatever is most important for you, and then other people start to follow that example and treat you as a priority. So so ultimately, so like we said, for you is one-on-one, for all three of you is career, family, things like that. For you, it's second is family and career and things like that. For you, it's least social. That's why belonging, group stuff, like, it only comes up when you're really, really stressed. Otherwise, you don't really pay attention to it very much. And that's the, like, hidden area of issues for you. Like, there are issues due to lack of attention there, but it's because you're putting so much energy into the one-on-one and then the career and family when you're under a little bit of stress. And so these things are getting so much of your attention that you're imbalanced, and then you end up needing back from those because the third leg of the tripod is being completely ignored, essentially. And so the tripod is like falling over and because you're leaning too much on one leg at a time. And that's what we all do. For you guys, it's family and career and things like that. So for you, relationship issues come from lack of attention to them, while for you it comes from too much attention to them. And so that's why for you, you would seek them out again, even though there were failures. And for you, you'd be like, well, maybe it's not worth it. I'll just focus on my career. It's easier that way because career is a higher priority for you. And just like if you had an issue with group or community, then you'd be like, forget it. I'll put that aside. I don't really need that anyway, because it doesn't seem worth the obstacles to get the fulfillment when it's so low on your priority list. But ultimately, they should be higher on our priority list, those least priorities. So you were saying, to connect back to what you're saying, why I'm saying all this, because you asked, you don't know how it's related to, how it might be related to your personality, and ultimately, so you're saying that career is where your issues are. You're doing better with your friendships, which is more social and one-on-one, and so it's actually because you're second social and least one-on-one, and under stress, you give too much negative energy and attention to your career and your family. And then under more stress, then you start paying attention to like social stuff, and then more stress than that is one-on-one. And so it's, in a lot of ways, you've used those other realms to escape the self-preservation stuff, and in other ways you're going to those other places because even when we are escaping, we're actually going to other areas where we're going to learn the same lessons, so that we can bring them back. So in some ways, the relationship stuff has been an escape, but it's also been the area where you've learned things that you can bring back to your career. And so now, as far as you're not allowing parts of yourself to exist, that's what you're having trouble with. Allowing parts of yourself to exist, to have a space for themselves, to be important to you and matter and be worth your attention, to be worth being paid your attention. And then that's where career stuff. And then obviously what you brought up is perfectly relevant to all of us. We were already talking about the journey idea, that you're struggling with being able to be okay with the journey, feel like you're already at the destination. That you're living in the journey feeling like you're not at the destination and resisting the journey every step of the way. And that's what obviously everyone was talking about without actually saying those words. The issue that we've faced is not living in our feeling of success, living in the feeling of failure and procrastination and being stuck, being identified with that on the way towards success, but not there. And when we're on the way, but not there, when we're resisting every step of the way because this isn't where we want to be yet, then we will never get where we want to be. because again, if you think of it in terms of your relationship with yourself, it's presence to yourself that gets you where you want to be. That's why we feel so much better when we're meditating. Because it's when we're with ourselves, when we're really listening, when we're giving ourselves the positive attention that we want from ourselves. Notice that what happens is the less present we are, the more inclined we are to seek fulfillment outside ourselves because we're not already in it. And that's why it feels so different when you've meditated and it feels like you could just be. Suddenly you're just here. But before that, it's like you're chasing after something. It's like there's this restlessness, like even getting into the meditation, it's like there's this restlessness, like there's noises and sounds and it's like all distracting. And then until you really get into it, then there's this like, maybe I have to change this, I have to get it to be quieter, this noise is really bothering me, this other thing, if I just found a relationship, I'd be happier, if my career would work out a little bit better, if if people paid me more, everything would be fine. And it's the sense that things outside us have to change. But when we're meditating, then it's like we're just here. Suddenly everything's okay. There's nothing to change. We don't have to change anything. So now notice how crazy that is. Obviously, if nothing changed and yet you no longer feel like everything has to change for you to be okay because you're already okay, then clearly it wasn't the external things that needed to change. And ultimately, the more you change the internal, the more the external things change. And so we're able to actually be where we want to be because we start responding to things differently and we make changes to our lives and we end up feeling what we already want to feel, supported by the world around us. And so there's this clear path that we could be taking, which is obviously being present to ourselves. And therefore we wouldn't be giving too much energy to having to change certain parts of our lives where people feel micromanaged and things don't work out because we're too attached to certain outcomes and we get attached to certain paths up the mountain and we end up resisting where we are because we're not already where we want to go, and it just makes us feel increasingly like a failure when we're frustrated and, you know, feeling discontent along the way. Now ultimately, all of that is a symptom of not being enough in your peak. And ultimately, sometimes not even having defined the peak clearly. Because if the peak isn't clearly defined, which is actually something you said that you wanted to talk about, setting your destination. So that's interesting. But, so yes, obviously we should probably do that. But, but ultimately the peak is if we don't have a clear peak, then we are likely to not be enjoying the journey because we don't know why it's worth it. Why is it worth it if we don't even know where we're going? Is it even worth going? You know, it's so ultimately, obviously, we probably want to figure out where we're going first. And ultimately, that's not even something we have to figure out. It's because it's really just a matter of saying, I would love to know where I'm going. I would love to know where I really want to be going. Set that destination and see where life guides you if you don't know any more detail than that. But ultimately, you do know some feelings. It's not like you know nothing. You know, I want to feel happy. I want to feel good. I want to feel connected. I want to feel, you know, I want to feel like life is treating me really well. I want to feel like I'm alive each day. Like I am, like my life is filled with successes. Like that's why I've set up this meetup the way that I have. There are things that we know about what our destinations are, and those are the feelings. We want all these positive feelings in our experience. We'd love to have excitement and love and peace and awe and success. We'd like these things in our lives. Those are definitely things we want in our lives. There's no question about those. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, as far as if those were our guiding forces, then we could navigate when it seems like there's no way up because it's worth it for those things. And we don't need to know exactly how to get there. There's no specific way we have to get there. We can suggest things. You know, perhaps a relationship with these qualities would help me get there. Maybe. That could be good. If I get that, that would be nice. But it doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to be this person. It doesn't have to be whatever. I don't have to be at this address. But if I had a place that felt like this, that would be really nice. You know, it doesn't have to be this particular job, but if at my job I felt like I was doing something meaningful and I felt like I was being paid amply for it and I felt really fulfilled there and I felt like I was where I was supposed to be, that would be really nice. And ultimately, you know, so if you're on the journey on the way there, ask yourself, what do I really want to get to that I want to be at right now? Because if you're clear about where you want to be, which now doesn't require any tense, doesn't require future, present. Where do you want to be? If you want to be at all these great positive feelings, and you can suggest things that might lead you there, but it doesn't need to be those things, but it could be, then suddenly the universe can start offering you things that are like some of the things you've suggested, maybe a little bit different, because there are actually better ways to get up the mountain, and you've set your peak, and so the directions will be whatever the most efficient directions are. And ultimately you will get where you're going. And you'll actually be motivated, which means you won't resist the journey so much. You won't be in the journey of feeling like I'm not there, which is what all of you expressed in different words. I'm not there, it's not worth the effort, it's too much. It's you know, I am someone who is procrastinating, which clearly is not there. I'm working toward that experience again. Not there. All these reaffirmations of I'm not there. So ultimately, obviously, that doesn't feel good. We're not there if we're saying we're not there, because we're definitely not feeling where we want to be. So the real question is, where do I want to be? What do I want to feel? What do I want to be thinking? What do I want to be experiencing? Those are the ultimate questions that we want to answer first, before anything else. And then ultimately life will help give us other things to add to that list as we're coming up with our lists. Just amazingly, like, you know, people will come into our lives, things will happen, we'll have experiences in areas that are either related or unrelated to the area that we're trying to improve, and suddenly we have another thing to add to the list. Well, I really would want this. This definitely is important. I didn't even think of that, but that's definitely up there. Like, so, you know, there really has to be respect. I didn't even think about that, but respect is important. Love, yeah, I don't even know why love didn't make it to the list. Kindness, yes, there should be kindness. So ultimately, when you can think about that, and then obviously start treating yourself with all those things, intend that, live with that, live as though you are in that place, be the person who would be where you want to be. Notice if you really want to be in a relationship, you wouldn't be looking for one. When you're in one, you're not looking for one. So why would you look for one? To get to one. If you're looking for a career, you wouldn't be looking for a career if you're in the career. If you're in a career that you're happy with, you wouldn't be looking for a career. You would just be living in the feeling of being so happy in your career. There wouldn't be any effort in that. So live there. The world will do the work. When we do the work, we do a lot of work. And that's all that happens.
So when you set your intention and you get out of your own way,
Yes.
you get out of your own way, and the universe is just enters in.
Exactly. Because then you let the GPS guide you, you let the car take you. You don't, instead of getting out of the car and pushing without even knowing where you're going, you now have fuel in the car, you have a GPS, you have a clear address in the GPS, and you have a clear indication that you're definitely going the right direction. And you don't have to be pushing. Which is nice, you know. There's no pushing required. The car is doing the pushing. So ultimately, that's where we really want to get out of our own way. Ultimately, not by focusing on the effort that's going to be required, but focusing on what it would be like to already be there. Not focusing on how we're not there, but focusing on being there. And then everything happens so much more efficiently. Then we can have like months' time, you know, relationships happening, and all these other things that have happened with people around me. It's like almost magical and amazing. As far as the success thing, obviously it was totally like meant to be. It was clearly on the direction, on the way here. It was so related to everything we're talking about. The bookcase that I have in the other room, I found, I don't know, a few days ago, a week ago. I found it 4 blocks away when I was running back from the forest. And I was like, this looks good. I did want a bookcase. And so now there was more that went into this because I'd been visualizing a bookcase in my room almost since I got here, but I just wasn't sure I wanted to buy one. And I was thinking about what it would be like, how, you know, it would fit in the space, you know, approximately color, shape, whatever. And I was thinking, yeah, it'd be nice to have a bookcase at some point. And then when my birthday was coming up, which was a couple weeks ago, then I was thinking, you know, maybe I'll get a bookcase around my birthday. Maybe just after my birthday, I'll get a bookcase. And I was like, I'm still not sure I want to spend the money, but it would be nice to have a bookcase, so we'll see. And another thing that went into it was that I had several weeks ago, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago at this point, I saw this really tiny bookcase outside. It was painted over. It wasn't its natural color. It was chipped paint. And I was like, this would require way too much work. It's not really what I want. It would be nice to like have a bookcase that's really what I want. That's its natural color. That it's like much bigger. That would be great. So I had put all this stuff into this already without actively trying to. I didn't do any work to like go active. I mean, I did a little research into bookcases just to get an idea of what was out there and see what they would cost and if I had to put them together or not, and whether I wanted to do that work. And so then, you know, like 2 weeks after my birthday, a week and a half after my birthday, actually no, at that point I think it was a week after my birthday, then I was running and I saw this bookcase and it fit my description. And I was like, well, this would be good. This is my birthday gift. So I decided, I you know, looked at it, I picked it up, I checked it, you know, see if it was in good condition, and it looked like it had just been put outside. And I decided, if I can lift it, I'm taking it. And I could lift it. Now, I obviously didn't think that out, because I was 4 blocks from here, and it's like 7 feet tall. So I was like, well, I can lift it, so I'm going. So then I just one step at a time. And now obviously, so 4 blocks was one thing, but 3 flights of stairs was another. It's way too big to maneuver in the stairwell, especially by yourself. And I couldn't even get in the building because I needed someone to hold the door. So of course, when I realized I absolutely need someone to hold the door, there's no chance that I'm getting this in here if no one's holding the door. At that moment, someone came down the staircase, and I said, "Could you hold the door?" And she said, "Sure." And so then I was trying to get it in, and it doesn't fit. So then she was like, "You have to turn it." And I couldn't see. I was already exhausted. I carried 4 blocks. So then she's like, "I can do it. And she starts dragging. I'm like, no, okay, it's fine. I got this. I'll take it. So I turn to the side, I get it through, and then I realize it's really difficult to get it up the stairs because it keeps hitting the ceiling unless you have it on its side. So then I got it on its side. I was lifting it sideways, bringing up the stairs. But then I got into a stairwell, and I realized now I'm really stuck, aren't I? Because I couldn't turn it in the stairwell. The stairwell is way too narrow. And so it was really heavy. I was completely exhausted at this point. And I already, before getting to the building, I was, breathing, taking breaths, stopping, I can do this. And then I'm in the stairwell. I'm up, a flight and a half here. And I realize I have another stairwell after this, even if I can get up. And I had no idea how I was going to make it the rest of the way. and I was like, this isn't good. Should I just leave it in the stairwell? If I could get it up to the 2nd floor, should I just leave it on the 2nd floor? Because I don't know if I could do another stairwell like this, even if I managed to get it up. And I see someone, step out of a door, and I'm like, "Hey, could you help me?" And it's as though he wasn't even there because it's like he didn't even hear me. I don't know, it was really weird. And so I realized I didn't even want help at that point. I realized that at this point, I'd already made it 4 blocks and up a flight and a half of stairs by myself. I could make it up another flight and a half of stairs by myself. That'll be a much better, triumphant feeling than if someone helps me the rest of the way. And so I'm like, I can do this. And so so then it was by sheer willpower with many "I can do this" statements. Because I tried a couple times and it would hit the ceiling, and then I'd try to turn it, and I was like I don't have the energy to get it up the rest of the way like this, and it's hitting the wall, and I can't even turn it to get around the corner, and after I had to decide that I was going to make this happen before I could actually get just the right angle, because the angle was such a small window that I could turn it in. And so when I decided that I was going to do this was going to happen, I was committed. And this is, keep in mind, even walking the 4 blocks, there were times when I was thinking, maybe I'll just leave it on the side here. Is it really so bad if it's garbage here instead of there? I can't really, I don't know if I can make it the rest of the way. So obviously by the time it's the staircase, this was so the thing that got me through was, I can do this. And I got it up that flight, and I got it up the next flight, and was really glad that I didn't break the window in the stairwell. And I visualized it before. I'm like, it's gonna be okay, everything's gonna be good, good condition, everything. And so anyway, so I made it up, and then I was on this floor, and I was like, how am I getting in my apartment? I don't know, the door has to stay open, the spring is really strong, I couldn't get anything to hold the door open, I kept putting things in front of the door, nothing held it open. I'm like, this would be a terrible place to not be able to make it any further. I'm so close. And then I managed to wedge enough cardboard under the door or something. I had chipped some paint and but I managed to get the door to stay open. And then I turned it on its side. I rearranged my room. I turned it on its side, and I brought it in, and I got it up. And then I saw it was a little wobbly. And then I was like, it's okay. Yeah. And then I realized that it was because the floor is uneven, and this happened with all my furniture. And so then I put cardboard under one of the legs, and then it's slightly wobbly, but it fits everything I wanted. I cleaned it up, and it was now I have this beautiful bookcase, and every time I see it, then I hear the words, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And I realized that this was all about everything we're talking about. That ultimately, you know, when we first start off, all we need is to just, like, I'd already visualized a bookcase in my room. That's all I needed to get started. Then I was offered a bookcase. Then it was up to me to decide that I was going to make this happen, that you know, that if I could lift it, I was taking it. Because if I had thought all this out, then I would, like, tried to plan out the whole way myself, I totally would have overwhelmed myself, like 4 blocks and 3 flights of stairs, forget it. How am I ever doing this myself? And so I didn't think it all out. I just decided, I just saw it in my room, and that was enough. I picked it up, I could lift it, so I went. And then it was just one step at a time. You know, I had to put it down a few times, and one step at a time. And then, and you know, taking some deep breaths along the way, and then realizing that when you get so close, it gets harder. You know, you're so close, and then it's like, well, how do I get in the building? But then when I absolutely needed help, when I couldn't have done it any other way, someone came down the stairs. So I realized we have help. When we absolutely need it, we'll have help. And then when I was in the building and it was just a matter of getting up the staircase, I realized I didn't want help at this point. It was my decision to take this bookcase. And I was going to get it to my room, one way or another. and ultimately, then it was just a matter, even though it got more difficult as I went up the staircase, because then it was like, then when I was in that second staircase, it was like, I don't really know how this is happening. And I realized that it would be just as difficult to take it down as to take it up. So at that point, it made no sense to go back anymore. And that's the point that we get in our journeys. When we get past a certain point, at some point, it makes no sense to go backward. That we're committed at this point. We're either going to get stuck for a little while and then move forward, or we're going to move forward, because we're not going backward, because that would be just as difficult as trying to go forward. And so then it's just a matter of deciding that this is going to happen, that we can do this. No matter how difficult it seems, that we know that there is some possibility, and if there's a possibility, then it's going to happen. Because if there's a possibility, you can make it happen. If it were completely impossible, we wouldn't be able to do it. But nothing is completely impossible. And so, if it's not completely impossible, then you have a window. And if you decide you can do this, then you're going to get it, you're going to maneuver right through that window, and that's going to be a reality. And that's going to be what happens. And then even though, you know, you can get so far, and then obviously by the time I was in the last staircase, and I'm like on my way up, I'm like, I am practically there. I've made it through one staircase already. I can do this. Obviously it was possible because I saw it happen already. That's when it felt more real, even though it was really difficult, because the first staircase, I really didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't even know if it was possible, but I had already decided this was happening. So I just decided I'm just going to go. So this is the progression that we go through. And then obviously then we get there, and then we can like still see obstacles. Even when we get what we asked for, then we can find things wrong with it. And I saw it as wobbly. It wasn't the bookcase was a little wobbly, it was the floor. It was my foundation. It was the way I came into this. It was what had existed before I brought this new thing into my life that was wobbly. It wasn't the thing I brought in so much that was wobbly. And when I was able to then just put some cardboard under one of the legs, I realized it's not so bad. It's actually exactly what I needed and exactly what I wanted. And that's the progression of our success, to realize that it's really imagining where we want to be, just taking it one step at a time, recognizing it's going to get more difficult when we get closer. But it's our willpower that makes that part easier, because we already see that we're closer. So even though it's physically more difficult in a sense, there are aspects of it that are more difficult, even emotionally and whatever, it could be more difficult. But then there's the thing that makes it easier, which is I've made it so far, and I'm so close. And that's what gets us through when it seems like it's really difficult, when it seems like, how am I going to do it past this point? We've already come this far. Why would we stop here? And then when we get to a point where we realize that it would be as difficult to go backward as to go forward, and so forward is really the only option. Sure, we can stay still, but it's really staying still or going forward. So it's just a matter of how long I want to rest, because I'm going to take it the next steps of the way. And it's just a matter of when I decide I can do this and I'm ready, and then we're going to go. And we're going to get to our end goal, because the closer we get, the easier it is to imagine that we are going to get there. So it's just a matter of applying that paradigm, and then we will achieve success in every area of our lives, remembering that paradigm. And remembering, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And have that be our mantra as we get through.
That's great. That's great. You make it sound so easy.
Well, it is once we're in that mindset. Thank you so much for coming. I
Thank
really
you for having
appreciate
me.
it. Of course.
See you in 2 weeks?
2 weeks is going to be. Oh, so I want to announce 2 weeks is going to be a big
March.
talk.
Oh, with that,
That's March
March-
8th.
March 8th.
March 8th.
So that's
Yeah.
2 weeks.
is that when we buy
That's
a
going
book?
to be a,
No,
a
so one-
Skype thing or something?
No, it's gonna be in person.
Oh,
But there's gonna be a recording of the talk, so anyone who can't come, you can, if you participate, then you're gonna get a recording of the talk. But so next week, if you buy my book while it's
Right,
on sale, Sunday,
right.
Monday, or Tuesday, 99 cents, and you share it, following the instructions on the website, then you get a free ticket to the talk, which is on the 8th, which is in 2 weeks. And there's gonna be meditation in the talk, but there's gonna be more talk than meditation. But so it's gonna be there's gonna be some of the stuff that we do here, but it's gonna expand, and
Where is it?
it's gonna be
At the yoga
a mile
studio.
down the road.
Okay.
It's at a yoga studio.
Great.
So yeah, it's really close to here.
Okay.
And yeah, if you could be there, that'd
Oh
be
yeah, I'm
fantastic.
definitely
Yeah, good. I appreciate it.
All right, bye everyone. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care. Nice meeting you.
Okay. That's fine.
Feel that?
I know you were saying you were exhausted. That was clearly like your experience now, and wasn't just a general experience.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. Okay,
It
good.
was great.
Good.
It was great.
I'm glad.
Can I call you?
Yeah.
That be okay?
Of course. Definitely. You have my phone number?
No, I don't. Just a second.
Are you headed out too?
Actually. It's like, yeah, I'm a little sleepy also. I don't know if you picked up on that.
Yeah, I know. I saw it.
Meditation was like
Yeah, I know.
so hard.
I know.
I was hoping you didn't see. But it's okay.
I'm aware of everything.
Yeah,
Jonathan, you did not.
What's
That
your number,
is
John?
it.
Yeah.
You're full of it.
Yeah.
I cannot believe it.
I carried it all by myself.
No, you did not.
Yeah.
What's your number?
516
Mm-hmm.
581 8630.
It's gorgeous.
Isn't it?
It's gorgeous.
This is my
You
success.
have to see it. It's on the left. Holy.
Oh my god. This is not at all what I was picturing.
Jonathan, it's not what I was picturing.
Oh my god.
Jonathan, people need to see what you were talking about before you tell us.
Kudos
Jonathan,
to you, my friend.
Thank you.
I did not. That is like out of control.
I know. Well, my books are at home, so now I can actually take books. I realized how few I actually took when I had this big bookshelf here, and I started putting them on the shelves.
Oh my gosh. Stunning.
I know. Thank you.
I don't know why not.
Yeah, it's over here.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
See, it's totally worth the
It's
4
gorgeous.
blocks
I
and 3
can't
flights of
even-
stairs.
The power if I can do this.
Exactly.
A lot of power in those 4 words.
It is. No, totally. There definitely is, because that's what gets us to do anything. Is imagining already being where we want to go, and then just being willing to take some moments to rest, to take a deep breath once in a while along the way, and reaffirm that you could do this.
Very cool.